Hello and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show where we debate takes so hot that they melt a planet with twin suns. I'm your host, Brody, joined by my co-host, Amanda, and today we're going to talk about Tales of the Jedi and find out where does this piece of Star Wars content rank amongst the rest. We're going to be discussing ranks. We're going to be discussing hot takes. We got a whole lot of stuff to talk about today. I'm so excited. But before we go any further, we have to acknowledge we have an empty seat next to us today.
Yeah.
Christian has these things, these little humans he lives with, and somehow they took over precedence over us today.
Yeah. I mean, this is now the second week in a row. So where is Christian? Is he safe?
Let's start a hashtag.
Is he all right?
Is he all right? What's that from? He's safe. I really want to know. Is he? Oh, okay. Darth Vader.
I was like, whoa, everyone, let's see how this plays out right now.
I got
Is
so
he
much.
safe?
I had
Is he all
someone
right?
call me today because they saw a TikTok you put out.
Uh-oh.
Yep, about specifically I don't know.
Beyonce?
Yeah, no, they were talking about the TikTok you put out with the something about, I don't know.
Well, I can't help you.
I'm blinking. It was something about the lady that I really like.
Mon Mothma?
I almost said Maz Kanata. I don't know.
Wow.
Characters' names. So the point is, she said something about Bothans dying in episode 6, and I said it was in episode 4. Something, I don't know what a Bothan is. I thought I was in A New Hope.
Yeah. You did this really great monologue about, like, you totally defended why you felt like Mon Mothma was the better, like, your favorite character over Leia, and then you threw in this one misspoken thing, and that's all people latch onto.
Yeah, that's it. And I put out so much other stuff this week. Like, I talked about Boba Fett's top 10 moments. Like, I totally think he could kill Mace Windu. Nobody cares. What instead they care about is the fact that I don't know anything about Star Wars. Like, in this instance, that's the part of fandom I represent. The fans that are half in, half out, don't really know a whole lot.
Yeah, we posted on our TikTok at the end of the month our No Nuance November hot takes, and we each took a stab at those with some of our hottest ones, and they got a lot of engagement. But like you just heard from Brody, no one seems to really engage with the Boba Fett content. So I think that just furthers the indication of how milquetoast Boba Fett is
as a character.
Yeah. You tried to make it a hot take.
All right, so what's this all about? What is Tales of the Jedi?
Well, I'll tell you what it's not about. Boba Fett.
Be a lot better if it was. Be a lot better if it was. I want to know about Boba Fett being a Jedi. All right, so what was this first arc all about?
Okay, so the series is broken up into 6 small episodes. The first one we start off with is like the birth of Ahsoka, and she goes out with her mom hunting and is then found to be a Jedi based on her connection to a saber-tooth. But then we jump into 3 stories back to back to back about Dooku and his shift to the dark side and some background character on him, and then we jump back to Ahsoka during her training with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and then finally to after Padme's death. So it seems like they were layered in chronological order, from my understanding.
So what do we want to talk about first?
I want to talk about Dooku, because that was definitely what I craved. Dooku. Yes, Dooku has always been such a mysterious and interesting character.
Yep.
And I recently listened to the audiobook Dooku Jedi Lost, because I also love Ventress, so it brought those two together. Loved learning more about Sifo Dyas, and I was really excited to have more Dooku time. And each of those episodes were so entrancing to me. Like, he's such a great character, and even though each of these episodes is like 10 minutes long, they are such great vignettes about how he is thinking and how Qui-Gon sees him and then is
Yeah.
influenced by that later on in his time.
Yeah, and it does give you some sort of like empathy for Qui-Gon Jinn. Like
Yeah.
he didn't want to come even with all the stuff with I just said Qui-Gon Jinn, didn't I?
Yeah.
I meant Count Dooku. Oh gosh. It's been such a week. No, Count Dooku. You have empathy for him. You're already supposed to like Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah.
Point is, with Count Dooku in the end, you see that he didn't want Qui-Gon Jinn killed.
Yeah.
He didn't want to fully
Of course.
backstab the Jedi.
His plan was to include Qui-Gon in whatever Sidious's plan was.
Yeah,
which seems definitely like not possible.
In his mind, it wasn't so much, he wasn't even like anti-Jedi as much as he was anti-Galactic Republic.
Yeah,
And
well, I don't think I would say that either, because in that first episode of Dooku's line, it was episode 2 called Justice. That's the one where Dooku and Qui-Gon arrived to that planet because the senator's son was kidnapped by the villagers, and it turns out that the senator is actually a piece of crap and not a good representative of his people. And I think the senator says, "You serve the Senate," and Dooku says, "No, we serve the people of this republic." So he is definitely more pro people than like, he's kind of like anti-government is kind of the vibe that I got from him. He's just like anti-authority down the line.
I see that.
That's sort of my interpretation of him. And I think that shows in Qui-Gon's character too, the little bit that we see. Oh, look who's joining us.
Oh my goodness, you're kidding. We have a guest tonight. We have a guest. Look at us.
Yes.
Who is this person that just jumped into our box here to talk about Tales of the Jedi? Who are you?
It's me, Char Char J. Yeah,
Wow.
Brody, I apologize for all the craziness, but yeah, it's pretty hectic right now with work, and I found a time frame where I'm able to come and talk with you guys, so I'm here.
I'm so glad you're here. I didn't know if he was going to be here. I told Amanda before we started the show, I was like, we have a guest. Last minute, we have a guest to talk about Tales of the Jedi. And then I got your text. I'm like, we probably don't have a guest.
You're like, that's okay. We're
going to roll with it, and maybe he'll join, and you joined. So now we have a guest.
I was hoping I'd come and surprise you, and I'm glad that I could. So
you did, yeah.
You did, yes. A surprise, but a welcome one.
And I'm so glad you're here because, as you know, we're talking about Tales of the Jedi, and I am not like the biggest lore person. And if there's anyone that knows a lot about lore, it's you. So I'm glad that you're here to kind of add some perspective. We were just talking about Dooku's first episode, Justice, and how we both really just liked Dooku's storyline or story arc more than Ahsoka.
So much more. But before we do continue, I want to like add some legitimacy here. Char Char J is also a content creator, for those who don't know, in the Star Wars fandom universe. They have their own podcast called The Pod Ones. He does a lot of awesome TikToks, so go check him out. But again, super excited. I don't know where you are. I don't know if you're safe even. I mean, the way you everything in the backdrop there. Blink twice if you need help. I know you're driving all over the country today, so hopefully you're all right. But we're thankful to have you with us.
I'm probably like maybe in like a half hour outside of Indianapolis, like more towards like I don't know where I am. Like hold on, let me take a second and let me look where I am on my maps. Because I'm somewhere like near Chicago.
This is the first time.
I am in Oak Lawn.
Okay, I don't know.
Shout out to Oak Lawn.
Shout out to Oak Lawn.
All of our listeners.
Kind of by Orland Park, because I know that Brody was he went to school around this area. So
there you go. Okay, very cool. Yeah. All right, I know where you are now. First time we've had a guest who's road tripping on our show. So
yeah, gotta do what you gotta do.
Got to do what you got to do. So we were starting this episode. We were talking about Tales of the Jedi, And yeah, I was bringing up earlier how Qui-Gon Jinn, he seems like you just said, he's not really for government, period. I didn't think he was so anti-Jedi as much as he just completely lost faith in the Senate. And
Dooku, not Qui-Gon.
son of a gun.
But yeah.
I need to
Well,
retire.
I mean, he's not wrong. They both do lose faith
Yeah.
in the Republic.
Yeah.
I keep
Well,
making
I mean,
mistakes.
he doesn't lose
in
faith
this.
in the Republic, but yeah, Qui-Gon does believe that the Senate should not be in control of what the Jedi do, and that's exactly what stems from Dooku's teachings.
Yes, and we see that literal interaction happen between Dooku and Mace in their episode together.
Mhm.
So what were your thoughts then on this 3-part Dooku arc?
Oh, the Dooku arc was one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars I've ever gotten, because let's just make one thing clear. It filled a lot of loopholes or plot holes that we have not discovered yet. Because before this, we were like, wait, how did Dooku delete Kamino from the archives? How did Dooku like what was going on there? Like, what was his relationship with Qui-Gon? Because we never got to see this in animation or live action. And we finally understand that because Qui-Gon and Dooku had such a good relationship, and right before he was about to go back to Naboo during the Battle of Naboo, when he came back to Coruscant with Anakin, when Dooku says, I won't be able to protect you when you face that Sith Lord again, and Qui-Gon's like, there's no need to worry. Obi-Wan's filled that role. He's acquitted himself quite well. And he's like, that's good. I should like to meet him someday. You've been singing his praises. And then, because when Dooku talks to him and when he's holding him captive in Attack of the Clones, he tells Obi-Wan that, Qui-Gon always spoke very highly of you. And we finally understand that, like, Dooku did acknowledge Qui-Gon that Obi-Wan was someone special. But what hit me most was him and Yaddle. That whole sequence with Yaddle hit me so hard, because in Legends, the way Yaddle goes out is protecting Anakin.
Oh,
Really? There was a bomb on Coruscant, and she stopped it to save Anakin's life. Which I like this canon one better, because not everything about the prequel trilogy has to be about Anakin. It can be about other characters. I get that Anakin is like the centerpiece character of the prequels, but I'm glad that Dooku has some coverage on that, because Dooku, outside of Jedi Lost and Attack of the Clones and probably 10 Minutes and Revenge of the Sith and many different little books and comics, there wasn't any like huge highlight moments. Like Dark Disciple had great Dooku, Jedi Lost had great Dooku, but we finally get to see it on the screen, and it's super cool to understand and see the darkness that's just flowing through Dooku. And when he goes to the works, when he meets with Sidious to talk about the future of the Republic and what the plan is going to be, and Yaddle pulls up, and I love how, because I made a video about this on my TikTok, with how he arrives there, and Dooku immediately tells Sidious, because he's really upset that Qui-Gon Jinn got killed by Maul, and he's like, he could have been a powerful ally, and he's like, for you perhaps, because that just told me that Sidious was afraid of Qui-Gon and Dooku being a potential team up against him.
Yep.
Because
throughout like Star Wars timeline, Luke could have been a very powerful asset to Sidious. Anakin was a powerful asset to Sidious. Like, there was many different people that could have helped out Sidious who were Force sensitive, but for some reason Qui-Gon was not one of them. Because Qui-Gon was like Dooku, but he was more towards the light. Dooku was just like, I want peace. If I have to leave the Jedi to get it, I will. But Qui-Gon was just neutral.
So one question I had after watching this, and Dooku has become such a favorite character of mine, even though there's still so much unknown about him. I just have a hard time believing that he would buy into becoming a Sith. Like, joining arms with Darth Sidious and going down that whole path. That seems just so antithesis to what, like, that's not peace, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and I mean,
the Jedi is not right, but like going the entire opposite way just seems like a really extreme turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the whole point of the Sith. Like, the Sith have this radical and misinterpreted idea of peace.
So you think I need to go to the side street where your blinky light is there?
That's the guy that's trying to get over here.
And we have a fourth guest.
1 second.
No, I don't know. I think that's a very good point as well about not Qui-Gon, about Dooku. But the
Mhm.
two are so interrelated, and that's what makes this last episode so special, because you do see not only, I think, a real love that he had for his former apprentice, but yeah, he had plans of his own. And maybe not to like overthrow the Emperor. Maybe he didn't think necessarily that far ahead. Maybe he wasn't that far gone yet. But he's definitely had plans for Dooku in the greater scheme of what he wanted to do to bring peace to the galaxy. So I thought that was a really interesting point. And then again, with the whole thing with Yaddle, I don't think the Emperor could have asked for a better situation, because that event cemented Dooku as a Sith.
Yeah.
He goes into that saying, why did you have to kill this Jedi? Like, come on now. And he leaves there being someone slaughtering and cutting down a
Jedi, yeah.
Jedi. And it is so well written, so sad. Yaddle's
Yeah.
death hits you like just a bag of bricks. I'm like, the door goes down on her. I'm like, she's
No.
dead. That's it. Well, it's a kid's show, they didn't show it, so whatever. And then she's like, no, she's not actually dead. Now we're gonna slowly
Now we're
show it.
gonna chop her head off.
Yeah, and we're gonna do it like slow. And I'm like, okay, is this a kid's show? This is wild.
I mean, I've questioned whether Clone Wars was a kid show plenty of times too. But I mean, Star Wars is about war, and it's about death and destruction, all of those things. Whether or not they are kid friendly, kids come from war countries, and war still affects them even if they're not able to process it. But I think seeing shows like this helps them at least understand it in some context.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, looking at the rankings of what we put out for these 3 episodes. For the first one, overall we gave it a 72.93. The second episode a 64.53, and that third one a 76.
I think that's the highest we ranked of any of this series episodes.
It's kind of harsh.
Yeah, maybe a little, or maybe it's adequate because they're shorter episodes. They're very vignettes, if you wouldn't want to say. But I did want to call out episode 4, The Sith Lord, which we were just talking about with Yaddle and Palpatine and Dooku. What really stood out to me in that episode was the music. So shout out to Kevin Kiner, who we haven't been able to really shout out because he's only done, I think, the music for the animated series so much.
Yeah.
Bad Batch as well. He comes back for this series, and in that Sith Lord episode, you have such a great, scary, intense Sith operatic, like the Padme ruminations,
Yep.
which we've talked about before as being one of our favorite Star Wars moments. And then you also have like the broken Force theme at the end when Yaddle is killed. And wow, if you just need a reminder of what Star Wars music can do for you, it was in this episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, this arc especially, like I personally really loved it more than the numbers show. What I think some of these things did for the immersive universe, like if I go back to the 4th episode, the Sith Lord one, I mean, as Char was just talking about, I mean, and for folks who aren't watching the video, we just lost him.
We're rolling with the punches.
We're rolling with the punches today.
I come from an improv background, so I'm used to this.
You're just used to this. So we're going to have like a carousel of different guests tonight.
Yeah.
Who knows who the next one's going to be? Mike Tyson's, I think, up 3rd.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see if he can actually make it. But yeah, no, I thought that arc was amazing. I thought what it did for the immersive universe, and seeing Dooku, just one, you do have that empathy, as I was talking about earlier. You understand more of the why, and like really like the dogmatic view of the Jedi and like the flaws of it. And like even the first episode was about, not really about caring about the people so much as just following what the rules said and what that would have actually done for those people would have got them hurt. The second episode, Mace Windu doesn't want to follow a lead at all.
Yeah, he's just like,
let it go cold.
Yeah, just be ignorant and blind to, and Dooku's like, no, let's follow this. We should at least figure out how she died so we can honor her.
Yeah. And boom, what do you know? And come that third episode, it's just the culmination of everything he had seen to that point. But again, didn't want to actually murder any Jedi.
Mm-hmm. I did want to call out in that episode 3 choices where Mace and Dooku go to Raxus looking for Jedi Catri's body. They then find out that it was the guards who ambushed her, and at one point one of the guards is sitting in front of Mace and Dooku after it's been like the lie has been uncovered, and he talks about how Jedi, the quote is, Jedi are lapdogs for the Senate. They claim peace, but mostly keep law and order for the rich and powerful. And Dooku also has like an aside with him later when he's behind bars, metaphorically, about that same kind of principle. Like, you still need to keep fighting. And I loved Dooku's story because it raises those types of questions. Like, even in that first episode, like, I think it was Qui-Gon who asked, why don't you guys vote for somebody else if the senator is so bad? And the people were like, if only it were that easy. That's a really political point of view.
Yeah. Oh, they really steered into the skid with that one.
Yes.
Really talking about the disparity between rich and poor and going into these really complex issues for, I mean, this intended audience, I'm going to assume, isn't children this go around.
Yeah.
But yeah, they really steered into that with these episodes. I mean, I don't know. It seems from this, is it fair to say that Qui-Gon is fairly socialist
Oh,
in
yeah.
his views?
Oh, yeah.
I'd believe so.
Definitely. That's going to stir the pot a little bit, though.
Maybe. Star Wars fans are very left, as we've come to learn. So I think maybe most folks will just agree with that. But yeah, no, he seems very socialist. You see a lot of the evils of this capitalistic state when left unchecked.
Yeah.
I think is the key. I think there's pros to both sides of the coin, whenever the way you look at it. But when anything is left unchecked like that and evil is allowed to foster in the dark, like you see with that first episode again with somewhat the guy's son being kidnapped and everything there, and people didn't really realize what was going on that planet. The second one, they didn't realize that people were harvesting out resources from that planet, like that senator was, for, you know, basically metaphorically talking about what people will do today with lobbyists or different politicians will. So yeah, dealing with very complex issues, and Qui-Gon wanted to turn that all on its head.
I also wanted to call out in episode 2, Justice, when Dooku and Qui-Gon are at that village, you see a lot of empathy come from the people that are the most disenfranchised. Like, at one point, the village people have so much empathy for the woman who brings the senator and his army to Dooku and Qui-Gon, and they're like, you know, if we were there, we understand why she did it. You know, she has a family to feed. Meanwhile, the senator's son also has empathy for the people of the village who have been hurt by his father when he's been kidnapped. He's like, well, I mean, what other choice do they have? That is also extremely political and really gets you in the mindset of Dooku, and also thinking now of Qui-Gon watching Dooku make these decisions using a force choke on the senator. He turns and goes and releases the prisoner and tells his son to go save his father, because that's really the only thing he can do. Qui-Gon can't really step in between them.
I loved that scene.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was pulling for Dooku. I'm like, it's pretty dark, but
yeah,
I'm like,
Justice.
Get him.
That's why the episode was called Justice.
So
beautiful.
Good.
Okay, so
should we also talk about the fact when it comes to the characters that Liam Neeson reprised his role?
Did he?
Totally was.
I thought maybe I think I may have heard that his son did the younger voice, but maybe he comes back for the older one.
I'm pretty sure it's the older one.
Yeah.
It was so good.
That is cool.
Give
Liam Neeson more Star Wars.
He will do it for free, it looks like. He just comes back for all of it. So
yeah.
That was awesome. Okay, so looking at all that, the arcs didn't do any better than for this first arc. The highest ranked episode we had was 76%. Okay. Ahsoka.
Ahsoka. Okay, so then the Ahsoka stories. Episode 1 is called Life and Death. That's where we see her and her mom go out hunting Kybucks, and at one point a saber tooth comes and
Just
attacks
stacked looking one with those shoulders.
attacks her mom and takes Ahsoka away to his nest or lair or whatever hideout cave
he's got his hideout.
fortress.
His,
Yeah, I don't
his
know.
fortress. Castle of Doom is what they prefer to call it, actually.
And then they share this moment that actually really reminds me of Ezra's connection with animals throughout Rebels. Baby Ahsoka touches the saber-tooth's nose, and they share this connection. And the saber-tooth then ends up bringing Ahsoka back to the village, and everyone is like, well, she's a Jedi. That's the only way you can explain it.
Yeah, that was fine.
It was fine.
It was
cute. Like, who
cute.
doesn't want to see baby Ahsoka? Like, let me see. Okay, remember baby Looney Tunes?
Yep.
Can we do baby Star Wars?
Wow, that's a blast from the past. Whoa, you
Yeah.
opened up a part of my brain I didn't even think was
Just
even
cracked that open.
Wow.
No, I want a baby series of all of our favorite Star Wars heroes, like baby Obi-Wan.
I'm okay. I'm okay on that.
Okay, what about baby Boba Fett?
We've got it. Just watch Attack of the Clones,
That's
Christian's
true.
favorite Star Wars movie. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it was a fine episode. I didn't.
Also,
hate
what
it.
happened to her dad? He was there in the very beginning when he was like, "My daughter's born," and then he doesn't show up in the second half of the episode.
I thought he was in when she goes hunting and he just stays back and does like tends to the house. Remember?
What? Oh, okay.
Tending the roof and everything.
Nice.
I don't know.
Yeah, put that man to work.
All I will say is I was watching it with someone, and this person was so annoyed with Ahsoka's dad. It was just like, not even gonna use everything this person said, but just like, this dude's such a weenie, essentially. Like I think you hear like a gunshot or your wife's cry or something out in the forest, and he's just like, he just looked scared and didn't do anything. She's like, this weenie.
Yeah, I mean, meanwhile, she has like a whole baby strapped to her chest with a rifle, and she's like, "Oh, like let's go shoot some animals together," and talking to her daughter about like life and death and how you can't be afraid of death. And then when this saber tooth comes up behind her, she can't reach for her gun right away. So what does she do? She gets big and loud and tries to match its size and energy, and that is just so freaking powerful and so iconic, and provides so much context in how much Ahsoka is like her mom.
Yeah, it felt very, I don't know, it was very raw, very primitive. You see that, you're like, okay, it's fight or flight in this moment.
Even the music was very tribal-y and earthy, and
yeah, I dug that too.
Mhm.
No, I thought when you saw that moment too, I was like, okay, is this going to be like Ice Age or something, or like Tarzan, where you lose the parent out of this? Like how?
Yeah, I thought
dark
she
is
was
gonna
gonna die.
I forget how she lives in that situation.
Didn't
the rest of the group come back or something?
The Sabretooth like tosses her to the side and then like grabs Ahsoka and runs off. So then she's just like, ah.
So he leaves the bigger meal.
Yeah, and takes the
defenseless.
smaller one.
That makes sense.
Because it was cuter.
That
cute
makes
little
sense.
pet.
He's like, listen, I just wanted someone of this size.
He could have taken the deer that she shot. It was already dead.
That scene made no sense to me.
I took a point down on the technical aspects a little bit because I love the animation style. Love it. Don't get me wrong. But the Sabretooth didn't like match in the same way. I don't know. In some scenes, like the Sabretooth just felt very, dare I say, cartoony.
Yeah, it felt very cartoony. And then not only that, it was just like, it didn't feel like something really out of Star Wars. It just felt like you took a saber-toothed tiger
from Tarzan.
Yep,
and like clipped it in, yeah.
But just like gave it two big teeth and jacked shoulders.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. That. Yeah, I agree. But then we have 2 more episodes of Ahsoka's
and that one
story.
was a 66.93%.
It was okay.
It was okay. What was the next one? It was
The next one is called Practice Makes Perfect. So Ahsoka
Ugh.
trains in front of her master, but Anakin wants to challenge her to a real test against the 501st so she can be prepared for
More!
anything.
More.
More. Yeah, that
Again.
was intense.
Again. I don't know. It was fine. Again, it was one of those. Like,
Are you kidding? The end of the episode, you're gonna say it's just fine, even when the end of the episode
that
punches
episode
you
was
straight
boring.
in the gut.
It's so boring.
When her and and Rex have to go out, and you see all of them from the final episode of Clone Wars, and now knowing that Rex and her had to bury the entire 501st, and just how outnumbered they were, it just proves how kick-ass she is.
Look, it was fine. It showed literally all this was Anakin training her, which you assumed that had happened when you
Yeah.
watched.
I agree. Like, it didn't have to be the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. I do want to call out, though, that we got one of my favorite Jedi appearances in it, which was in the beginning. You have young Caleb Doom
Oh,
with
yeah.
his Jedi Master Bilboa?
Balboa,
Not Balboa.
Rocky,
Balboa? Like
Rocky
Balboa Park?
no, Rocky Balboa.
No, okay. Well, someone will correct me. I wish Char Char was back so he could say that. But
Not me.
we saw
You know I won't correct you on
No,
that.
we saw their special appearance at the beginning of that episode, and of course, it's great to see the voice actors that play Obi-Wan and Anakin next to each other again. It just warms my heart. I want more Clone Wars.
Do you?
I do.
Really?
I just love Anakin and Obi-Wan together. They're just two BFFs.
I'm kind of good with no more Clone Wars. There was a lot, and a lot of it wasn't great. Some of it, but when it was great, it was
I know.
really,
I'm
really
one of those
good.
people that just can't let go.
All right. I mean, it was good. I don't know. I mean, and like I said, this was good too. I enjoyed this. This episode was fine. I enjoyed
This
myself.
episode was fun.
Yeah, it was fine.
And then the last episode, I think, was probably the best of the three of Ahsoka's arc, in my opinion.
I liked the first one best. That last one was a 60.67%, and this last one.
This one is called Resolve, and
Yeah.
Ahsoka attends Padme's funeral and tells Bail that she can't keep fighting anymore. While in hiding, she uses her Force abilities to save a child from being killed.
And this episode has a 62.67%.
Yeah,
I
that's low.
hated this episode. I don't think I really could not stand it.
I didn't mind it.
I had just finished reading the Ahsoka book a few months ago.
Okay.
And there were so many things. Like there's an interaction she has with Bail Organa on Naboo, which was a fine interaction, but it's not how the book played out. And so for me, when I'm watching this, I'm thinking, okay, two things don't match. Are we to say that this series of shorts is, because Char was mentioning earlier, like, oh, I like this canon more. Is it actually canon?
Yeah.
Or are these shorts just interpretations of what could have been? I mean, whatever. It's all fantasy.
It's also called Tales of the Jedi. So it could be that these stories have been passed down as in like mythology.
But also, I mean, there's things that are from that Ahsoka book that were not proven true in the Obi-Wan series. And so there was things that kind of played into both, where it's kind of shows for me, I'm like, all right, you read that Ahsoka book, you're like, what's even the point? Because people aren't sticking true to those stories when they create new stories. And they do involve details where they cross each other. Like, again, at the end of the Ahsoka book, she runs into Bail Organa at the very end, like on this spaceship, and they have this great, meaningful interaction where these two worlds finally collide and come together. Again, this story on its own was fine. But when I watch this and you see everything with the Inquisitor and you see how she ends up on this farm, like, it's very clearly they tried to find a way to condense that entire book into this short that honored it. And I know there was a lot of other uproar about one of the characters not being, I think she was black in the book, or some folks think she was black and she was like just a darker skinned person in this. I don't know the truth on that point, but I know just from the story perspective that I was really looking at there, I know there were a lot of things that just were different. And so it forced me to say, okay, so is this even supposed to be treated as canonical? Or is this just kind of like, what is it, Star Wars Visions?
Yeah.
Where it's just meant
Which
to be enjoyed.
it works for Star Wars Visions because those aren't characters that have canon already developed into them. Now, I liked the last episode of Ahsoka. I loved seeing her. I love Ahsoka in a jumpsuit, in a boiler suit, like we got in season 7 of Clone Wars. It's my favorite. But she's on this farm and trying to blend in. Would she go by Ashla?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool name. And
Yeah.
there's definitely some like lesbian flirting going on from that girl. I don't remember her name.
Yeah.
You read the book.
Yeah.
You should know.
But it's me and names.
Yeah, that's
don't
true.
even know
I
your
can't
name.
I can't reply. I can't rely on you for that. But they go off and trade some hay or something. And when they come back, the whole place is burnt down because the chick's brother had called in the Inquisitors to
Yeah.
find Ahsoka. And I loved that scene. I loved the flames, the wind in the Inquisitors like hood, and the movement and the colorization of that scene a lot. I like how it was a nice short, easy effort almost of Ahsoka's part to defeat him, even though he was so incredibly intimidating. He had already taken out the entire town.
Yeah.
But
really
I
shows how
also
weak these. Well, one, how powerful Ahsoka is, because
Yeah.
she did go. Yeah, I think Maul was not trying to really kill Ahsoka, but at the same time, Ahsoka did hold her own
yes,
with Maul.
yeah.
And
I
that
mean,
just goes
again,
to
she took out
Sith
the
lore.
entire like 501st.
Yeah.
Too.
And then that's why seeing some of that training from that last episode that she underwent with Anakin and how brutal he was, I'm sure, in comparison to most Jedi when it came to combat training.
She was ready.
She was ready to take out an Inquisitor without any difficulty.
Yeah. And since I hadn't read the book, I just enjoyed it. And so that is if you would like to enjoy Star Wars, just be illiterate. Just don't read books.
Do not
Just don't
read the
read.
books. You will enjoy yourself. That's a great point. That is a great point. Stop reading, become illiterate, and just watch TV.
Yeah. Just accept everything at face value and absorb.
That's okay.
Like a sponge.
Well, I will say because of that, because it broke canon and it just broke the immersive universe entirely, I think I'm giving out the worst score from the 1 to a 5 stars. I'm giving the immersive universe not a 1, a 0.1.
0.1?
That is the lowest score I can give, because you flat out took what was in the universe and you went a different direction. And so for that reason, you not only helped, you didn't actually build any new lore. Instead, you broke what had come before you, which is what the whole universe is about.
I was able to give the immersive universe a 3 because, again, ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. It was an okay book followed up with a worse episode. So what do you do? Anyway, well, with that take of mine, I think that should take us right into the hot take segment of the show. So, Darth Vader, let's get it.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
It is hot takes time, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and just say what I mentioned a second ago with my hot take. When I read the Ahsoka book that so many people love, I had just gotten done, I think this is my own fault, rereading like the Silmarillion, and it was the first Star Wars novel I'd ever read. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is fine. It's not great. There's not a lot of deep lore to it. It's a fine story. Honestly, I had a tough time staying engaged with it throughout. It's a little bit of a slow burn. It's fine. But when I had gotten done, with reading that, and especially after seeing this story, Ahsoka went from my favorite Star Wars character to now number 2.
Whoa.
And honestly, she's losing ground and might depending on how Book of Boba Fett season 2 goes, when that inevitably happens, she might get moved down to number 3. But right now she's sitting securely at number 2.
Behind.
Well, Anakin and Darth Vader.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So you're saying the book was so milk toast that it kind of ruined your favorite character.
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
Wow.
Like, that, because I liked her arc, and not only that, but just also what we saw here. Like, it got me to a point where I just don't care to see more.
Yeah.
Like
sometimes, I mean, it's kind of a lost art in most IPs, but sometimes less is more.
Yeah. And
just like Kino Loy, we don't need to know if he survived or not. We don't need the Kino Loy spinoff.
Yep.
We don't even need him to appear again. He could have survived, but isn't it more fun to just be like, no, that was the end of his story.
That was the end. And that's what made Boba Fett so interesting for a lot of folks. He could have had a much better death than he did, but an original death anyway. But point with that, I don't know. I feel like with Vader, I can still get more. I'm still up for more. I would love a show about the Inquisitors where they're just terrified of Vader and like, oh, don't ever go out of line and this guy will chop you down, and you see Vader hunting down Jedi.
Ooh.
That'd be cool.
Maybe like a Tales of the Sith.
You see something like that?
Ooh.
Super cool. I'm always down for more Vader. Comes to Ahsoka, I'm not excited now about the Rosario Dawson show after. Look, Andor was really good, but I'm not confident that this Ahsoka show is going to be of similar caliber. Rosario Dawson is a fine actress, but what made Ahsoka so special for me, I'm coming to realize, isn't Ahsoka herself. It's her relationship and belief in Anakin Skywalker. You see that fight that she has with Darth Vader in Star Wars Rebels. You see her fight with Darth Maul when he's trying to convince her, your master, everything's fallen, it's all over. And she refuses to believe and go after Anakin. And so she's only so interesting to me because Anakin Skywalker is that much better of a character.
Ooh.
If Scottie Pippen is not Scottie Pippen without Michael Jordan.
Okay, I wish I understood that. I mean, to an extent, I kind of feel your hesitancy about the Ahsoka series. Now that we've seen how good Andor is, I just have a hard time believing that the Ahsoka series can be like as serious or like not corny. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh man, if it's corny, I'm out. Like Ahsoka is a deep character, and I think Mandalorian got her somewhat right. It was kind of a shorter episode. Although I will say I really loved her and Luke together in the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I mean, all of the live action Ahsoka that we've gotten has been nice little moments, but to see a whole series around her, I'm nervous about, just because, I don't know, I think also, this is a tangent, but can we stop calling shows just the name of the character? Please?
Yeah.
Please. Please. No more. No more. Please
Kinda
do not.
basic.
No, I know.
Could be worse. Remember Lando was supposed to be a movie.
Lando. Solo. Obi-Wan. Are you kidding me? You could have even named it Kenobi. That has a better title to it than Obi-Wan.
Wasn't the whole title Obi-Wan Kenobi?
No, it was Obi-Wan.
Really?
Andor. Ahsoka.
And the Book of Boba Fett. He gets a little bit more. I don't know why we called it a book.
Yeah, I don't know either, because then part of the chapter wasn't even about him.
Yeah, because they called it because each one of the Mandalorian episodes were chapters. And so this was its own individual book, which is so terrible if the Book of Boba Fett doesn't get a season 2. Because
the sequel to Book of Boba Fett, like, what is it going to be called?
The second book in the series of Boba Fett.
Book 2.
Book 2. The second novelization of the character we know as Boba
to Boba.
I don't know. I mean, whatever. I'm not going to go down that show again because I really want to, but I won't. So I don't know. Like I said, she's only as good of a character as she is because Darth Vader is that much better.
That's a pretty hot take.
What do you think?
It ruffles my feathers, and I'm going to disagree with you though,
Why?
because you are then saying that this individual female character is only entertaining because of her association with a male figure.
I'm just saying her best moments are so dramatic because of Anakin Skywalker and her relationship with him.
I think their relationship is one of the pivotal points of her character, and also what I love about it, because I love watching Anakin and Ahsoka together and how she has his tendencies, and when she goes into battle she thinks like him and has this really well balanced personality between him and Obi-Wan. But I think she's interesting on her own. I love seeing her in, like, just for example, in Rebels when she has her little, I can't remember its name, the little pet that she has. And she has this whole like aura to her that is this like chosen, not necessarily chosen one, but this like, it's kind of the daughter figure that we get into in the Mortis arc. But I think Ahsoka is a strong character on her own.
Another hot take. If this show goes the way I think it's going to go, as far as female characters are ranked, I wouldn't be surprised in 3 years' time if I say Harrison Dula is a better character than Ahsoka. Because one character is moving up for me, the other one just continues to slide on down. Because the more she's separated from I've like loved her as a character, and the more she's becoming separated from Anakin and becoming her own thing from the novelization and these other things, the more I'm like, yeah, your stuff's kind of boring.
Interesting.
Yeah. Whereas Harrison Dula got some stuff from her and her childhood in Bad Batch, and the more we continue to see and learn about her and her people when they go back on Ryloth, I'm very bought into her. I don't care at all about Kanan. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm more invested. Kanan's only so good because Harrison Dula is a badass.
Yeah, Harrison Dula is a badass.
And where
Kanan
would she
Jarrus
be?
is also a badass.
She is his eyes in the sky and everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're gonna make me emotional. We can't talk about this yet.
Harrison Dula. I'm not gonna say it yet. Ahsoka's got a lot more content. It's not fair.
But it sounds like we will get Harrison Dula and Ahsoka together in the Ahsoka series.
That's going to be exciting.
That is
I'm
exciting.
a big Harrison Dula fan, so
heck yeah.
I'm super stoked.
I mean, how are you not? How can you not be?
My
My car is named after Hera.
She's one of the few good characters out of Rebels. Her and Thrawn. And the big moose guy. I liked him too.
Zeb?
No, not the assault. Not him. The big moose that I'm in the middle.
Oh, what's his name?
The big yak.
Bendu or
Bendu.
Something like that.
I think it's Bendu. I think you're right. He goes up in the clouds. Yeah.
It is cool. Bendu, yeah.
He was cool. Did not care for a lot of their characters. The wolves were cool. Didn't care for Kanan.
Wow.
All right. Well,
need to transition.
Yeah. With that being said, you voted my takedown, so
I find your lack of good takes disturbing.
We also had a take from Rural Farm Boy, who posted a comment saying, I've not heard anyone speak to with a younger Dooku. How does Mace Windu look the same 20-some years previous? But Dooku, Qui-Gon, don't. Just me thinking. Maybe Mace Windu is just a race of humans that just age really slow.
He's that Paul Rudd DNA.
Oh, yeah. Who would have thought he'd look like that? Not me.
I mean, I've always also wondered why like Obi-Wan ages so freaking fast too in between like his story, but I don't have an answer.
Yeah. More of a question than a take.
Yeah. I also have a question and not a take that I feel like we need to just
air it out.
Yeah.
Put it out there.
I just wanted to propose for a discussion now that we've seen these two arcs through Tales of the Jedi. What other Tales of the Jedi stories do we want to hear?
Boba Fett.
No,
Why not?
because he's not a Jedi.
He doesn't. We don't know. We don't know
Mm.
that part of the story.
Mm-mm.
He could.
Well,
have been.
I'm going to obviously say Caleb Doom / Kanan Jarrus.
We have a whole show.
I know, but I want to see him in between those moments, like before. I know that there's a book called A New Dawn that brings Kanan and Hera together.
I'll watch that story then.
Yeah, I want to
Hera's in
see
it,
that.
so half of
Yes.
it's good.
Yeah, I would love to see them fall in love.
Yeah,
I love
there you
them
go.
so much. It's so dumb how much I love them. They are my mom and dad. They're
Okay.
my Star Wars mom and dad.
I don't have a mom and dad. I just have Jango Fett. That's
Yeah,
it.
you're just a clone.
Just a clone.
I also I don't even like Luke Skywalker, as I've gone on the record saying, but there are some because he's an annoying idiot.
Yo, why is he? For all the new listeners, why is Luke Skywalker an idiot?
He is totally insufferable in the first 3 movies. I can't stand him. He only becomes a good character in The Last Jedi. So if you want to hear more about those takes, go back and listen to our episodes where we break down the original trilogy, which you can find on our website or anywhere you listen to podcasts.
You heard it here first. Amanda thinks Luke Skywalker.
But
is an annoying
that
idiot.
being said, I would like some of those stories in between, like Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, of his, I don't know, just little vignettes of his time as a Jedi. Maybe training Leia, Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah,
We could get some Rey Skywalker.
that was one of the better parts for me of things like the Rise of Skywalker, when you see Luke training
Yeah.
Leia. Like, those were cool moments.
Wouldn't that be great to get a little story?
I would rather have Mark Hamill reprise his role and do the time period of him rebuilding the Jedi Order before it fell,
Yeah.
post Episode 6, going back into that. I think that would be really neat.
Yeah.
I would love to learn more about Kit Fisto, the
Yes.
greatest Jedi ever.
Yes.
That would be a cool one. Anything from the Old Republic.
I
is
want to
cool.
see, we got a little taste of it when the Obi-Wan series was out, but he does mention his family when they're in the back of that truck. So
Yeah.
I kind of want a backstory of Obi-Wan, like when he was adopted into the Jedi Order, like what he was like before that. That would be really cool.
So I know there's basically 6 to 9 movies, TV shows about this guy, but I'd love to learn more about Anakin Skywalker. Like, what did he eat for breakfast? Did he eat cereal?
Okay, but what about in the years between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones? There's so many stories in there.
Yeah, what did he prefer, chicken or
Yeah.
steak? I want to know these little details about Anakin.
Mhm.
What was his favorite song? All
Mhm.
these things we didn't get with the hours and hours and hours of content that they should have addressed instead of his fall to the dark side. That now, because
Make
of
him
his
more
family-
relatable. What if he's a really picky eater and he'll only eat chicken fingers and mac and cheese?
Exactly.
Kids would relate to that everywhere.
These are the things we needed to know about Anakin Skywalker that George Lucas didn't focus on in the prequels.
And we missed out because of it.
And we missed out. And so, yeah, this is the opportunity to fix that. No, in all honesty, though, I don't really want any more of this.
What?
No,
Are you kidding?
no, I'm.
You're
not
wrong.
kidding.
That's the wrong opinion to have. This I love. I love a short little story that I can chew on. And
Star Wars was at its best when it was just 3 movies. And now we're just doing more and more and
Traditionalist.
more. And now Disney's keeps putting out okay content like this that they gotta look. It's not just me saying this stuff. They had to bring Bob Iger back to Disney. Disney's not doing great. I mean, their stock's up a little bit, but there's all these rumors now of Disney selling out to Apple, which, I mean, for that to happen there's a lot would have to happen for that event to occur, which is not likely, but still, Disney's not in a great position with their streaming platform. And Bob Iger was such a visionary and made so many deals happen for Disney, with Marvel, with Fox, with the first time with the Avengers, acquiring all of these different intellectual properties and just characters to be able to make that movie, and then being able to bring Spider-Man, a product of a different studio, into that. I mean, this guy did so much, starting things like Disney Plus. I mean, the things that happened under his tenure were amazing. And so I am excited to see for these next 2 years of him as CEO if he can course correct that ship, because with where Marvel has been this last phase, it's very clear that there's been a severe lack in direction. And I feel like Star Wars is absolutely gone that same path where those movies happened. They have no idea what they're doing, and they just keep putting out these one-offs like Boba Fett, Andor, this Ahsoka. They're just putting out these one-off shows where the only thing they're continually going to grow is Mandalorian. I now don't believe there's any grand plan for that. Hopefully someone like Bob Iger can fix it. But until there's something else here and there's stories that you're really invested in that have a huge impact like Andor, and when that is the statistical mean of the shows you put out, I am disinterested in getting more of the same okay content.
Well said.
So yeah, that's my that's not even my take. I jumped. You didn't have a take yet.
No, I just wanted to discuss other Tales of the Jedi that we would want, but I guess you don't want any. What about Tales of the Sith?
I mean, if it's a real show,
What if it's like Baby Maul? Again, baby Star Wars. Let's go back to baby Looney Tunes.
what a baby Chewbacca.
Put them like in a daycare and then all of them like interact with each other. I mean, tell me that your kids under 5 wouldn't enjoy that.
They would absolutely
Okay.
eat that up.
There you go. Disney Plus, contact me for
Contact you.
intellectual rights.
Design some characters, do some
I can
animations.
do some voice work.
Yeah, I think Disney needs animators and people to like draw.
I would never want to.
Yeah.
I've seen those some of the special effects that were done in some of those Marvel movies during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And, eesh.
Well, I don't even understand how people like with like things like Snow White, because how it was like flipped through like page after page to make all these different frames. How are artists able to replicate the original design of one sheet of paper, A, so quickly, and B, like they make it look with perfection as if it is all of these different frames are coming together to create this naturally moving image. Whereas if I were to draw anything twice,
It would
second-
never look the same.
no, it would look so disjointed. You're a
As an art-
designer. I was hoping you'd have an answer for me.
I mean, they do use like tracing paper. So that way when
Oh.
you thumb through it, you can see like the movement happening.
Oh,
And then like in what they will be drawing is only the things that are moving. So if something's just like stagnant in the background, that will be painted later.
mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of piece by piece.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Still a lot of time.
Yeah, it is.
No thanks. All right. Well, that was the hot take segment of the show. We got through that one too without Christian. I don't know how he did it, but we did. Time for the last segment.
This is the way to trivia time!
It's trivia time. And Amanda,
I do have a question.
you got a question for me.
Yes. We are introduced in the first episode of Tales of the Jedi to the Togretta. Is that how you pronounce the race that Ahsoka is? Togretta? I'll get corrected eventually. Elder, known as Gantika. What does the Indian name Gantika mean? Is it alert, wisdom, fire, or light?
Light.
Final answer?
Yeah.
It was alert.
Why?
I don't know.
Oh, I should have known it was going to be something like that. I was like, wisdom's too easy.
Yeah, I
Let's
know.
go with light. Nope. All right. Alert.
Gantika.
Alert. Alert. Makes sense with the pace of that episode and what that was all about. All right. Well, that was Tales of the Jedi. Let us know.
Whew, that episode was a little chaotic.
It was
Thanks for
everywhere.
sticking through it.
You know, yeah, thanks for listening to us. We didn't, or I half the time didn't know what characters I was talking about. We had a guest and then we didn't have a guest.
You know, it's just we take it day by day.
You know, that just shows how much we need Christian.
I know.
We all do different things, and he's shown that he is the tires of this car. He's what keeps us grounded
Yeah.
and moving forward. We need our tires back.
I'm glad you made a car analogy and not another sports analogy.
Yeah, I don't really know what I was gonna say for like keeping you grounded and anchored for sports.
Tagruta. Thank you, Rural Farm Boy.
Tagruta.
Tagruta.
You are
Thank
already
you.
corrected.
I knew it would happen.
And it was fast. Thanks to rural farm boy.
Yeah. Maybe he can be our guest next time.
Yeah. We're going to need more and more guests. So if you want to be a guest on the show, you want to submit your own hot takes, go to duelranks.com where you can do just that. We will look through our mailbox and bring those up as we continue to get them in. I know we have a few of them we actually have to get through at some point. But besides that, that's Tales of the Jedi. Amanda, thanks so much for being with me this episode. Audience, thanks so much for listening to us. And we look forward to catching you next week as we break down Season 2, Episode 1 of The Mandalorian.
Ooh.
See you then.